Hello, hello, Magic You community. Welcome to the Tale of Two Paradigms. My apologies, I was having some technical difficulties trying to get on here. I'm going to tag a couple of people that were interested in joining me live for this. Just a second. In the meantime, to those of you that do not know me, I am Marina. I call myself the sales wizard, the intuitive business strategist, and also a catalyst for psychic development to help you create your own creative inquiry into your powerful abilities that every human has. And this is what this group is intended for, is for you to come into your own powerful rhythm and power. So just a second, let me go ahead and tag a couple of people. Catherine, and I think for some reason I want to tag Pamela real quick. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the tale of two paradigms, and I've created some posts about this. And what I mean by this is the tale of two paradigms that right now is kind of in this inverted, not cataclysm, it's being catalyzed into a different paradigm where certain things need to step aside and move over, and a lot of people are experiencing serious discomfort, and a lot of people are able to just go ahead and float in to that paradigm because certain things no longer have worked, or perhaps people have experienced results with certain spiritual or energetic modalities in creation of their life that now, or they have only worked temporarily, that now seems to have lost their power. And the reason why I say merry-go-round is because these two paradigms have created within an individual these circular loops, these patterns of a looping pattern of self-sabotage that doesn't allow you to get out of it and doesn't allow you to actually create from your own stance of power. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking a little bit about this. I'm going to pull out my notes because I kind of want to stay on track for this. I tend to get long-winded and go on tangents. Let me actually invite somebody in here. I just had an intuitive hit about inviting somebody in here that I think might benefit from this information as well. So give me just a second. Okay, Teresa. Okay, perfect. Here we go. So I first want to go ahead and cover some of the symptoms that people experience when it comes to the tale of the two paradigms that I'll be speaking about. And the two paradigms are an internal locus of control when it comes to creativity, manifestation, divinity, spirituality, whatever you want to call that aspect, right? And the other paradigm is one that is based on external systems, validations, assumptions, and frameworks that have existed and have been so deeply ingrained in our collective psyche. So I first want to start off with some symptoms that you might be experiencing, because if you are, then you are still functioning in the external based paradigm, even though a lot of people who claim to be very enlightened or spiritual or whatever, most modalities invite you to go and find that inner source of creative power. However, a lot of modalities still fall short, and I want to discuss as to why, like what's actually happening here. Hi Dave, good to see you. I know you and I have talked a little bit about this actually this morning. So some of the symptoms you might be experiencing if you are fighting this inner warfare, especially right now, especially when the world has become quite a shit show. You know, and what we're actually seeing right now is this kind of purification, is this inversion, right, of how we create from inside out to outside in. Okay, so some of the symptoms you might be experiencing is you may be functioning in highly erratic ways. I work with business owners, so for instance, the way it shows up in business owners is you have your bouts and spurts of creativity, you have your bouts and spurts of productivity, and then your energy falls short. Like, where the hell does that energy go? Why do you get zapped? Like, what's actually happening here? There's not a connection to your own inner rhythm. There's not a connection to your own inner understanding of how you, yourself, and your energy functions. And every single human being has their own. So if you find yourself functioning in highly erratic type of ups and downs, whether it be emotionally, energetically, then you probably have this paradigm very deeply ingrained in you. The constant circular cycling thoughts in the brain, like obsessive behavior about, oh, I should do this, no, I should do this. Circular manifestations of events, circular, seemingly like unable to get off the spiritual merry-go-round, the feeling of frustration, the feeling of inability to break through to the next level as to like what the hell is going on here, the feeling of literally being spun, the feeling of being overwhelmed with the amount of information that you receive, the feeling of I am downloading so much, I am brilliant, and I'm still spinning like what the fuck. Then you probably have this paradigm. If this is you should keep listening. The inability to make decisions, this is another way that it manifests. I used to be also very indecisive. The inability to make decisions is a huge one when it comes to this. This is one of the symptoms if you are functioning in this paradigm. Especially if you're finding yourself on the spiritual merry-go-round. Whenever you make a decision and you feel like, oh my God, I should go with it, your mind comes in and right away justifies all these other frameworks and systems that have existed before that probably talk you out of it because it doesn't fit in and it's not supposed to. The constant cycle of learning, the constant seeking of information, the constant trying on new modalities, the constant looking for new tools, looking for that next breakthrough, looking for that solution, right? Then this is probably also deeply ingrained within you if you're constantly looking for answers outside of your own energetic makeup. I hope that makes sense. Seeking constant mentorship, of course, that goes in line. Reliance and blame. Reliance and blame on things like the stars or Mercury in retrograde or some sort of outside force like the universe, God, whatever, that is preventing you from fully coming into the next level because there's this feeling of like, oh, the universe is against me, or oh, there's something out to get me, or like this kind of like blaming also most likely is a signal that you have within you this program, that you have within you this blueprint. And it's not your fault. It has existed in humanity for thousands of years, millions of years for that matter. And there have been civilizations that have attempted to break free from it. There have been individuals from other planet, other intergalactic spaces, for better lack of word, that have attempted to show us otherwise. And it has only functioned so much, but we weren't ready to accept that. We weren't ready to accept that because the deeply lodged paradigm, the God particle or whatever, has malfunctioned. I don't know if you guys have read the God particle, but it says that within us, we each have this kind of desire for divinity. And that's something that's programmed into the human DNA. That program has majorly malfunctioned over the last thousands of years. What it's supposed to actually do is help you bloom out your own divinity, and the way that we have used it is we took the energy flow of how it's supposed to flow and fill us up with that kind of divinity, we reversed it, and we ended up projecting it onto something else and then allowing it to mirror that power back, thinking it was something else that gave us that. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to go in a little bit more in depth here later on in the live stream. So a little bit of a history about this ingrained blueprint. I mean, for millennia, there have been ingrained systems of churches, of gods and goddesses and spirits that we have had to rely upon in order to make our decisions, which right now, as I was saying about the God particle that we have within us, has been reversed, has been turned into an outward, an external projection rather than an internal one, right? So we have completely fucked up that program for the last thousands of years. And a lot of this has been ingrained energetically. It has been ingrained by individuals in power, whether it would be religious power, whether it would be financial power, whether it would be any kind of, political power. Hi, Anis. Good to see you. Hi, Dave. Good to see you. If at any point either one of you have any questions about what this is about or what I'm talking about, I just went through some of the symptoms that people experience when their God particle has been turned outwards and is projecting and mirroring, and then it makes us think that whatever is happening in our life is as a result of our prayers, rather than reprogramming the God particle to face inwards, to create inside out instead of outside in. So that's what I was just talking about earlier. So this kind of ingrained stereotype has been ingrained by people, has also been ingrained by, I also have seen in my meditations, I've also downloaded, it has also been ingrained by other planetary beings. However, what has happened here, this kind of like misconception of it has been taken wrong by humans. It has been ingrained by people and other individuals who have had a thirst for power, which is a lower frequency emotion that doesn't really exist as much on other planets, doesn't really exist in other places in the universe. So whenever we get granted and given these tools, we actually use them quite wrong. It's almost like putting on a shirt, but we put them on inside out. And the way that I have seen some of the spirit guides or other beings that I have channeled, they're literally doing one of these. They're like, oops, we fucked up. Well, we didn't really fuck up. We're giving them this toy, we're giving them this shirt, but they're putting it on their pants instead. And no wonder it's not fitting quite right, but it's still serving the purpose as clothing. I hope that makes sense. Throughout history, we have had visitations, we have had beings that wanted to come in and show us the reversal of how this energetic God particle actually works, but we have not been able to because we have such a deeply ingrained fear of what that would do. And I'm going to go into it a little bit more as to why it's so deeply lodged and creates such circular, looping, frustrating, like spun out of control type feelings within us. There has been, of course, popes and priestesses and priests and the presence of rituals and initiations that have ingrained within our communities that we need other people, to bring us to this next level of enlightenment, that we need other people to initiate us into this divinity, that we need some sort of a magical something to go ahead and get there. And that is such the way that I see the energy of this program moving, it literally repels anything else until it's reversed, until it's flipped on its head. And that's what I'm going to get to in the solutions for this. Like, concepts of money are also unheard of in other civilizations. Native Americans knew this. Yeah, a lot of the beings, I just got chills. A lot of the beings that come visit us or are here to help us, or a lot of this cosmic type of information that we receive of what is actually this universal truth of our divinity, literally short circuits when it gets into our system. And that's because our paradigm of mirroring this outward instead of in has been set up that way. It's running on autopilot now. It's almost like we downloaded this software and now we need to reprogram that. And reprogramming is a little uncomfortable and painful. And I'm going to go through that, or it can be. It doesn't have to be. That's a paradigm too. So historically speaking, we have had these opportunities, such as Native Americans, even Native Americans, I gotta wonder too. I kind of want to look into that a little more in my own meditations. To what extent did they function with this kind of program, or did it equalize for them because they were in such symbiosis of this truth that it was neither nor? It was not like an inside out or an outside in. That's an interesting one. I want to take a look at it. So where does this deeply ingrained lodging actually lie within us? And what would it look like if we were to take that away? What would it look like if we were to reverse that and flip it on its head? To reverse this external flow of reverence and reliance upon God, universe, energy, aliens, beings, spirit guides, systems, human design, astrology. If we actually reverse that and allowed ourselves to be our creative selves that can paint with this material that we gather from things like Mercury in retrograde, that we gather from things like chaos, that we gather from things like human design, and turn it in, right? What would actually happen, right? And this is the part where a lot of fear sets in, a lot of pretty universal fear, which is why it's been so hard for a lot of people to dislodge. This paradigm has even been perpetuated within spiritual communities, within people that teach frameworks that are supposed to reverse that flow. But even still, it's not quite enough juice because it's still a framework or a system that doesn't necessarily get along with your own creative rhythm to be able to reverse that thing for yourself. I hope that I'm making sense to those of you that are watching. Please feel free to stop me and ask me questions. To those of you that are watching the replay, please feel free to do the same. I'm going to continue jamming on this topic because this is something that's been a huge transition for me, that has allowed me to create money with a completely different way, that has allowed me to create the outcomes that I want in a completely different way, that has allowed me to realize my creative power and teach others how to come into that without giving them a system, right? So some tribes, other tribes went other directions. Yes, okay. I really want to do some more research on that, both like in factual and also, downloaded research to see like what was their energetic stance when it came to divinity, because they were very grounded to the planet. Right now, we are being blasted with frequencies that perhaps are not of this planet, that are perhaps sourced elsewhere from where some of the human beings have come from. Like Dave, you were talking about Pleiades or Sirius or other ancient civilizations. A note about that, they're not necessarily ancient because time does not exist in human realms, so all of these realities are actually functioning parallelly. So we're getting an influx of so many energies that are lodging in this paradigm even more, and is causing so much more confusion, and is causing people so much more angst and this constant searching to figure out like, okay, where is that next breakthrough? Like, how can I get just even a slight bit of relief from this? I'm like constantly just spun like a piece of poop in the toilet. Right? Like, and right now it's overwhelming. And right now we don't know what to ground into. Do we ground into the astral realm? Do we ground into the planet? Like, where do we go? Like, what is it that we ground into in order to dislodge that paradigm? Let me keep myself on track here. So also, how is this achieved? How is this achieved to be able to reverse this kind of flow of energy? So check this out. It is achieved through actually emptying any assumption, any framework, any system, any person for that matter, any other influence that is feeding the current energetic direction of where this God particle is flowing for you. If you are in this kind of spun state where you can't make decisions and where you're constantly searching and searching for the next answer, then your God particle, if you will, is turned outward. And right now you're relying on it mirroring back to you through these systems. You're relying on it mirroring back to your creation instead of just having it be in you and having all of that energetic flow, never having to go out anywhere, but it will just be there. It will, like, imagine how much energy you would save. Imagine how much energy you would, like, naturally inner source. To those of you that love Nikola Tesla, this is somewhat what he was talking about when it came to free energy, is an inner sourcing mechanism of your own battery, essentially. And this is what we have to do for ourselves when it comes to these paradigms of external reliance upon creation and creativity and creation of our own life. Is this making sense to those of you that are watching? Anis and Dave, I would love to hear your thoughts on what you're hearing so far, or your experiences with this, how you're perceiving what's going on the planet and us being blasted with so many differing energies, and how confused a lot of people are and how frantic everybody is. And it just, it's like now more than ever we need that kind of stillness and uncreation. And that's how the removal of this paradigm happens. Not removal, but reversal. Every human being has within them their own creative pattern by which the God particle will function on their own internal operating system. So a lot of these assumptions, say I'll take business for instance, a lot of these assumptions of what it takes, of consistency, posting twice a day, whatever, a lot of these assumptions, they function only for so long for an individual, and then they stop functioning because it doesn't function on their internal operating system. People who are night owls and feel like that there's this assumption that I have to get up early and do my morning routine, and that's what it takes for me to power up that battery. Some of that may function for them for a while, but not for long, because it's not sustainable to their own energetic current within them. And each individual is patterned so uniquely that it's not actually like repeatable. So a lot of these systems and frameworks allow you to begin to kind of feel into it, but not necessarily allow you to really go in and program that for yourself. A lot of these systems still create this kind of sense of assumptions and frameworks that then people rely upon as well and get stuck in cycles. And by this I mean astrology, human design, certain lines of energy work or shadow work that are very rigid, okay? And there's some truth to them. I'm not saying there's a time and a place for individuals who have never dove in to any of it. Of course, they're going to need a little bit of hand holding. They can't just be thrown in the middle of the ocean and be like and learn how to swim. So those systems provide training wheels for them to go ahead and start looking inwards. But as you graduate beyond that and start finding your internal rhythm, this paradigm of assumptions and frameworks is going to continue to drain your battery and keep you functioning in a highly unsustainable way. And it's going to continue to keep you going and looping and searching for the next fix, because they will eventually at one point in time stop working. I need to get you this book I have, actually this entire library about aliens and origins of our species. Yeah, I'd be really curious to take a look at that. And Dave, you were saying that a lot of human souls on this planet come from differing planets, right? Which means our own internal creation and our own internal current flow is so unique from one individual to another. And while there might be some, universal frameworks that might help initially, it doesn't suffice for the next level. It doesn't suffice for the next level of creation and creativity. So where is this actually found, right? Where do you find your inner rhythm? Where do you find your ability to reprogram this for yourself? Where do you find your own ability to create? Where do you find this? And it is found, I said this, in the profundity of loneliness, in the profundity of being really willing to be the only one, because you are, with your own pattern, being really willing to take a look at that and almost uncreate and unlearn any kind of framework that you may or may not fit into, but literally look at your pattern of sleep, of creativity as like the only one that's existent, and as if it's the first time you're seeing it. And for a lot of people, that's really scary, because we have ingrained within us a really deep sense of the need for community and connection. So we fear that if we individuate ourselves in that way, it's going to somehow disconnect us from the source of everything, which is just not true. Do you see how much of a paradigm that is, and that just how much that could cycle somebody out of control? So it is found also in profound originality, in profound creativity, to be able to sit your magical butt down and figure out an answer. How do I address this business challenge? How do I address this reprogramming of energy? What is the next step that I need to take? It is really scary for many people to turn inwards. It's a lot easier for most to follow an assumption or a framework or a rule book that has been created for them by others. And I found this to be kind of funny, but it's literally also found in placing things on their head. So any kind of paradigm that that you have abided by up until now, if you reverse it, place it on its head, instead of like grounding into the earth, what if you ground up? Giving that a shot. Instead of grounding outward and sending energy outward, what if you do that inward? Like any kind of paradigm that or say if you do follow human design, if you do follow astrology, what if you try on like, what would it be like today? Instead of being a fire sign, what would it be like if I was a water sign? What if whatever astrology says about me is not true? Since the birth of astrology, too, a lot of the stars and constellations have moved from the original birth time of astrology. So I oftentimes question its validity, that I wonder, do we fit in to a certain paradigm because we make ourselves fit into that certain paradigm? So it is found in literally reversing a lot of these frameworks and systems and putting them on their heads and trying on a different identity. Because that's what's going to dislodge a lot of the things. If you look at it from a physics point of view, like Dave and I talk a lot about now, when you think of a wave of energy in math forms, if you think of like a sine wave and a cosine wave, if you think of this wave of energy that you so far have been functioning on, that you so far have been surfing, If you go ahead and reverse the flow of it, so then you have a sine wave, a cosine wave comes in, it's going to neutralize and it's going to create a lot of empty space for new creative things to come in. That emptiness is actually what scares people and prevents them from coming in to their own creative mechanics, to their own creative abilities, intuitive abilities, to their own connection, to their own energetic modalities, for that instance, to their own medicine that they're here to help others with. I hope this is making sense for you. So even the most spiritual of individuals, rely on a study of systems and rely on a study of some sort of a methodology that's going to take them deeper. And what I'm encouraging you guys to do is essentially, instead of walking towards these other systems, is turn back around and look at where they're flowing and see if you can walk the other way. That's going to create a lot of neutralization of what has happened, so you're going to stop fighting. That's going to create a lot of completing of the circuit and neutralize and ground out a lot of the frantic energy that is coming in right now and overwhelming you with the inability to make decisions and with this constant seeking. The inversion happening right now on the planet is what's making a lot of people uncomfortable, because the inversion, by that I mean a lot of things coming to surface, is that there are individuals like myself and others who are aware of this. Perhaps we're neutralizing certain frameworks and systems on which the planet has existed thus far. And what it creates an upheaval from the stubbornness of where they are lodged. So it kind of creates an even more profound waveform for it to come in and keep existing and assert its power, if that makes sense, right? So a lot of this kind of inversion that's coming in, as we're neutralizing the waves, if they're both at a crest, it's going to create a higher crest before it goes down and before it equalizes. So there's a lot of very opposing energies right now, and we haven't quite found that antidote of stillness by literally just slicking back on it, by literally inverting it and sending it the opposing force to neutralize and calm it. Right now, of course, a lot of things that are coming up are fear-based. And fear-based waveforms are very erratic. Fear-based waveforms are very not even, so it's hard to actually fully equalize them, and they create chaos whenever we try to. So if you can imagine an even waveform, it looks like this. If you can imagine a fear-based waveform, I've seen them kind of like cardiograms. So if you try to equalize a cardiogram, you might equalize an aspect of it, but another aspect might create a bigger crest. And that's what we're seeing on the planet right now, essentially, is these blow up in our face of like, check this out. It's become so blatantly obvious because we're creating like a wave of a crest of this energy form. I hope this is making sense for you guys. I'm getting super physics about this. And for those who are not used to this profound loneliness, for those who are not used to, the paradigm of what would it be like if I was to be kicked out of the tribe? What would it be like if I was to, be left alone without my human compadres? What if I fully, honestly disconnect from any systems or frameworks that exist? Who am I underneath that? And that is the question for a lot of people that causes a lot of fear and causes a lot of resistance. It prevents them from this inner godliness that we're all searching for. And I don't know if you guys know this Einstein quote: the solution to a problem cannot be created from the same waveform that the problem was created upon, something along the lines. And that's essentially what we're doing when we're chasing these spiritual systems. We're trying to find a solution from the same kind of franticness, if you will, that is only going to continue that same waveform instead of neutralizing and creating empty space for complete new and divine and clean answers to come in, and clean creativity, which makes us spin even more if we continue going down the path of searching for solutions from the stance from which the problem was created. Is this making sense for you guys? So one of the best ways to begin this process, and I'm happy, of course, to help you dislodge this, is dispelling a lot of assumptions that have been placed on what does it mean for you to be a creative individual? What does it mean for you to be a woman or a man? What does it mean for you to be spiritual? Does that mean you have to have crystals and plants in the house? What does it mean for you to be a successful business owner? Like, what does that actually mean for you? If you begin dispelling and cleaning those up, of like, am I abiding by those assumptions because of an external something or other told me that, and I'm just agreeing to them? Or do I actually in my heart feel that that's the truth? So that's where that starts. Removing any kind of knowledge, of literally taking like a knowledge detox. Because a lot of times when we continue searching for answers, we're actually going to continue overwhelming that energetic frequency and that waveform, as I was just talking about, which is going to prevent us from... I just got a text. Yes, perfect, awesome. I feel like I'm being stalked right now by somebody in this live stream that's not showing up. And if you are watching, hey, what's up? So removing any kind of knowledge or a system of this framework or a paradigm involves you not sending it energy from the frantic space in which you are. Because you searching for a solution from that frantic space is only going to keep feeding the cardiogram fear-based waveform, if that makes sense. And this also comes from a very deep creative intent of like, I'm not leaving this space, that's inner space of emptiness, until I receive my own truth, until I am so sure of it. And that's where the creative power comes from. And that's where the terms "so it is" or "what I say goes" come from. It's from that space. Yeah, I think that's a good time to end this live stream on that note. That was a powerful one. Sense makes sense to you, Orion. Beautiful. Do you guys have any questions on this? The intention of this space is for me and other individuals here. There's amazing individuals within this group to help you come into that stance. And if you are needing a framework or a system right now, or some sort of hand holding, that's great. But just keep in mind, under what intention are you searching for that framework? Is it because your inner truth has put you there? Or is it out of the space of seeking and searching? And observe that energy. Is it a cardiogram right now? Or is this waveform of curiosity and creativity? Is it actually coming from you? Or is it coming from an Instagram superstar that has told you you need to follow your human design charts to be successful or whatever? Or you need to look into Mercury in retrograde and you can't create unless all 5 planets are back square or whatever the hell. I don't know. The reason why I feel like we're affected by these things is because we collectively agree to be affected by them, when in fact, when you begin reversing this energetic flow of creativity and reversing the energetic flow of this God particle to create inside out, then you become the Play-Doh master to be able to take in this energy and make what you want out of it, whether it be Mercury in retrograde, whether it would be your human design charts, whatever it might be. So the intention of this space, like I said, is not to give you another framework, but is to have you ask these deeper questions. Where is this intent coming from? Where is this energetic intent coming from for me wanting to learn something? What does it mean for me to be a woman? What does it mean for me to be psychically developed? What will I connect with? I'm going to take a deep breath here and just send out the intention of reversal and inversion, of creative inquiry, spiritual and psychic development, and creativity that is based from your own inner current. I'm going to send out a waveform. Ooh, I'm feeling so much looping right now. sending out a waveform to complete these looping circles so they have a place to go instead of looping on their own selves. And connect it to your heart. And on that note, thank you for joining me. Much love and aloha to all of you. I'll see you soon.